and hopefully the member for Truro by the Hell will not shoot me down as I'm standing here. But I think we too in the department agree that maybe the line's not quite in the right place because of this reason. Is about 75% of the population in your area receive services in Halifax, because for the most part they work in Halifax, and since they're coming in this direction, they're receiving their services here. And out of the $50 million budget of the Colchester East Hants District Health Authority, I think you probably work back your population of that group, and so we don't have the exact number of what the dollars would be paid to East Hants. And I know we've done some investments in the clinic and those kinds of things, but ultimately it does underline an issue that we might have to address sometime soon, is exactly where that line goes, and maybe make a couple of adjustments in that range. There's no plans to do that today, but it's something that we do know we might have to do in the future, because it does throw those population issues off of where people are going to be receiving services as well. So I think that answers most of the issues brought up by the honourable member.
Close. Thanks, Minister. Really appreciate it, and staff too. So.
Chair will now recognize the honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased to have a couple of minutes here to ask the minister some questions perhaps specific to the North Shore of the area where I come from. And as you know, Mr. Minister, I've been asking some questions in the question period around the need for more doctors, first of all for specialists, I guess at the Aberdeen Hospital, particularly internists, although there's other specialists that are required there. And also at the Lillian Fraser Memorial Hospital in Tatamagouche, we just need more family doctors to help man the emergency department in particular. So it boils down to the same thing. It's more doctors that are required, whether it's at one hospital or the other. So I'd like to perhaps start off by asking the minister, what, I know it's the DHA that is recruiting or trying to recruit these medical professionals, but what is the role of the Department of Health in assisting DHAs, or specifically does the department have a role to play here in recruiting these specialists or GPs that are required?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member for Pictou West. I thank him for the question, and I know we've talked about this one on a number of occasions. And I'll start off with the internists for Aberdeen, and I know I have talked to he and the member for Pictou East as well on this one, and that Pictou Center guy too. I talked to him a lot too in regards to this one. And basically, what we understand now is that through our provincial recruiter, through our physician services division, that there are apparently two possibilities for that site. And there are ongoing negotiations with those internists. I don't know what the outcome is going to be if we're going to be successful with those two. My hope is that we would be. We are providing, I think, fair and comparable remuneration for them, and especially to work within that team of I believe, 4 people. And 4 people really makes a big difference on who's working and when. Right now with 3, I know that those individuals and those specialists are working a little beyond probably what they should be. But I thank them for their added service and providing services to the people in New Glasgow and area. When it comes to the North Shore a little bit, and talking about Tatamagouche for a minute, and there has been a challenge there to have some more family practitioners and some individuals, of course, that would work at the emergency room. And I know that we've been working with the Colchester East Hants District Health Authority on finding some family physicians for that one. But I think it also has to work in, I think, with the master agreement that we're going to be negotiating over the next few years with Docs Nova Scotia, is trying to find a way to build in maybe some more not return for service, I guess is the wrong word for it, but more appreciation to get some of these family physicians to work in these emergency rooms, even if it's on a temporary basis. It would be nice to have that extra manpower to provide fill-in, because what we're really finding in places like Tatamagouche, places like Glace Bay, places like Digby, is just we have a complement of doctors, and if they go off on vacation, we end up really being stuck and trying to find replacements for them. Yet there are a number of doctors in the area that probably could provide that for us. And again, as I said in a number of questions over the last number of days and weeks. The family practitioners, we've had a net gain of 26 family practitioners in the province. I think the challenge right now is just trying to find a better placement for those. The other issue for Tatamagouche as well is there is a commitment for a $2 million primary health care project to help with renovating the facility as it stands today, and trying to focus a little more in on community health and family practice and those kinds of things, which I think not only help in emergency situations and providing triage and those kinds of things, but also working towards making the community and surrounding areas even more healthy.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I want to ask specifically, as I recall in past years, there was a recruitment or retention specialist within the Department of Health, and I'm asking, do you still have that person or persons, and perhaps who is that individual or individuals that has that role at this time? You know, what do they do? Do they work with the district health authorities? Do they specifically work with the Aberdeen Hospital or the Lillian Fraser Memorial Hospital to help them find the specialist or the GPs they require? I guess I'm just asking, do you have somebody on staff, and who that person is?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member. Yeah, we do have a provincial recruiter, and that provincial recruiter is Frank Peters, and he provides services across the system, but he works specifically with district health authorities. Most district health authorities would have a physician recruitment group, and what they do is do a lot of the legwork. But from a provincial standpoint, we send Frank out to many of these shows and recruiting times and those kinds of things to provide more of a standard right across the province.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Then I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, and the other issue that's been a real concern is around wait times. I'm hearing from quite a few constituents that are waiting weeks, months, or even longer, years for a particular operation. I had a constituent call me the other day that has to have an operation for a repair of an aneurysm, and I guess it's an aorta near the heart that needs to be repaired, and he's been waiting now for 4 months for this operation. I had a lady contact me a few weeks ago, and I think I wrote you a letter, Mr. Minister. She's waiting for an operation again to repair, I think it's gastro reflex, or I forget the name of the particular operation, but it's to repair that problem. And she's been waiting, actually, believe it or not, about 3 years now for her specialist to have that operation. So I know you've been working on wait times. I know there's a federal initiative in that regard, but in brief, Mr. Minister, if you could tell us, you know, why are our wait times so long, and what is it your department is doing about it? And I'm not looking for a half-hour answer. I'm looking for a fairly short answer, if you can give us in a nutshell, please.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I know in regards to the issue that the member brings forward when it comes to, I think it was an orthopedic type surgery for one of his constituents, and I know there's some further details being researched on that one to figure out exactly why that particular individual is waiting so long, because it is even beyond the norm of what our wait times are at this point. You know, basic answer to why our wait times are so long, and sort of trying to compare that to Canadian situations we're very similar and all trying to adhere to certain benchmarks, but ultimately our population is aging and requiring more specific type surgeries. Technology, of course, is changing and hopefully for the better in most cases, but you know, we are doing way more surgeries than we have in the past, and I forget the percentage increases that just in orthopedics has been phenomenal. And but the other point to that is that since the technology is changing so much, we're having some marvelous outcomes, and I know those folks who've had the opportunity to have knee replacements or hip replacements and those kinds of things are finding that those types of surgeries and the outcomes of them to be very good. You know, we've done a number of things in the last number of months trying to really get at the issue of wait times in the province, and really almost everything we do sort of has that overarching a policy of trying to invest in places where we are going to be improving access to Nova Scotians, which on the backside fixes and tries to help out in the wait times. But, you know, there has been 38 new specialists hired for Capital District in a range of different different specialties, including orthopedics, including cardiac, and those types of things. You know, just on Monday, I had the opportunity to stand with the federal minister of health and announce $48 million and creating a guarantee that individuals requiring cancer therapy or radiation therapy would not wait more than 8 weeks. You know, we are doing quite well, I believe, in cardiac care. We're actually on the national benchmark when it comes to eyes or cataract use. So, you know, plus we've also tried to focus in on 2 pilot projects out of that $48 million, which one of them, of course, is towards orthopedic, or what's called active wait time. So actually, we have an opportunity to have that single list that we've so really wanted over the last number of years, to know exactly how long those lists are going to be, plus giving the option to the patient to know where they are on that list. And know why they've either been dropped back a little bit or why they're going forward, and those kinds of things. So we're really, really happy about that. And of course, through diagnostics, working with the Canadian Association of Radiologists and instituting a program which will actually help making sure that people have the right test taken, depending on what their possible symptoms are, and making sure that they go to the right diagnostic, whether it be an MRI, whether it be an X-ray, or what have you. So there's a lot of things going on, and overarching wise is that through the committee, our wait times committee, we've been able to set up a true strategy, and that strategy is now available on the website, and we'll continue to focus dollars in that realm.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Mr. Chair, you referred, Mr. Minister, to, I guess, one of the letters I'd written you not too far back on orthopedics. It's actually, I guess, a neurosurgeon that he's waiting for. As a young man that was injured on the job and self-employed, actually, and is not able to work, not able to carry on any type of business, and he's in a lot of pain. He can't sit, he can't stand. It's really very difficult for him, and I have a letter here from his neurosurgeon in stating that, you know, they're not very happy with these long wait times either, and basically is indicating that a good part of the crisis in this long wait times is because of a shortage of anesthesiologists, and I've heard that before. So can you give us an update on how serious the problem here is with anesthesiologists, and is that part of the reason why we're having such long wait times?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the recruiting of anesthetists has been one that has been quite successful in the last number of months. We've had the opportunity to, from Capital, and then this is really rolling out to other to the other district or the other districts as well. Is in Capital Health, we've been able to recruit 8 new anesthetists in Capital Health. We're also utilizing anesthesia assistants, so we can actually use the anesthetists across the system, and we're continuing to do recruiting in all the regions, because really a lot of time is that we do have the specialists to do the operation, but we're having a shortage of some of those other specialties that we need, whether it be anesthesiologist or what have you, and we'll continue to really push in there. But we've had some success here in Capital, and normally when we have a success here in Capital, it actually pushes out to the districts to alleviate pressures there as well.
Chair will now recognize the honourable member for Pictou East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have just a couple of local issues that I would like to raise. I realize there has been a lot of discussion on general policy over many hours. However, the issue that I want to put forward has been raised with the minister on an individual basis, and I want to say that this minister is a minister who is very good to deal with the members opposite from him in relationship to individual situations that exist. And what I want to talk about for just a couple of moments, because I feel it's very important to get on the record in relationship to what's happening at the Aberdeen Hospital in New Glasgow. And I have been tag teaming with the member for Pictou West and also dealing with the member for Pictou Centre as well. But the Aberdeen Hospital is a facility that is looking after 89% of its intake. And that's very high. When you look at some of the situations that exist around the hospital where perhaps the high 60s, low 70s, and there's a lot of referral, but the Aberdeen is involved with about 10 to 11% referral. It's doing a good job. It has an excellent administrator. We are very happy with a lot of things that are happening there. However, having said that, we have a situation that exists at the Aberdeen where internal medicine is down to 3 doctors, and that is a serious situation. We need 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 doctors in the internal medicine, and that hospital within weeks could be in a crisis mode because of the fact that we don't have a 4th person there. And I asked the minister, what is coming about in relationship to that? Because you, I know, have been working on this issue, and we have raised it with you on a couple of occasions, and I know you are trying to do something, but for the record, could you please elaborate just a bit?
The Honourable, the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the member for Pictou East for his questions, and really I can refer back to the answer to the member for Pictou West as well in regards to internists at the Aberdeen Hospital. You know, ultimately, the best way to address this would be to have probably 1 or 2 more internists in order to make sure that workload goes down a little bit for these individuals who are providing, I think, well beyond their mandate to us. And again, I thank them for providing these services to Nova Scotians. Ultimately, what we're really trying to do as well, while we're trying to recruit for the Aberdeen Hospital, see if we can find those 1 or 2, where there are apparently 2 individuals that are being identified at this point. Now, how those negotiations are going to go, I'm not too certain, and I'm not going to speak more than that and try to influence that outcome. But there is a greater strategy that we're trying to work on through physician services as well, in collaboration with Doctors Nova Scotia, in trying to stabilize the practice of internal medicine as well as emergency rooms. So, you know, there's a couple of things that we're really trying to negotiate and work with a true strategy with physicians. So, you know, as soon as we have more details on that, and as I've committed to the members that I would provide them with updates as we know how things are going with those negotiations. I also as well appreciate the work of the administrator there, of course, Mr. Lee, or Mr. Pat Lee, who is a native New Brunswicker from St. John, just like my deputy minister. You know, does a phenomenal job in that district, as well as I want to thank the chair there, Mr. Murray Hill, for the work that he provides to us on an ongoing basis. And again, I want to thank the members for bringing this issue forward, and of course continue to work very hard. And I know that my Uncle Arnold would make sure that I work with the member for Pictou East, as he used to work with them for a long period of time. And I know the member opposite hasn't said it on many occasions on the record, but I think the member for Pictou East knew me when I was probably riding my bicycle down the hill from my Uncle Arnold's. So it's one of those guys I sort of have to listen to. He's almost my favorite NDP.
The honourable member for Pictou East.
Thank you very much. I went from being his favorite social democrat to his favorite McKinnon at one point, and I think he only knows about 3 McKinnons. However, having said that, I'm very pleased that the minister has indicated that he is willing to listen to me, because, and I hope that translates into action. What I am amazed with is the fact that the Aberdeen Hospital has between 19 and 24 patients at any given time who are actually seniors awaiting a bed. And having said that, we had announcements, promises made throughout the province for additional nursing home beds. And Pictou County got zippo-zap nothing in relationship to that. Absolutely nothing, not 1 unit. Now, I know there is talk of replacement of the Shiretown nursing home, which I understand is a privately owned nursing home, somewhere in the order of 30 to 35 years old. But I'm wondering why there was a decision made to replace a nursing home that is still fundamentally sound and not 1 single unit for Pictou County.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I thank the member opposite for bringing this issue forward, because it gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about our bed expansions across the province. When we looked at all jurisdictions in the province, we talked to seniors, we looked at population trends, we talked to district health authorities, we looked at a bunch of different issues like frailty indexes and those kinds of things to look at the frailty of seniors. And what we're trying to do in this first order of business of leveling the field per se of beds and areas, which is the 832. The area of Pictou has, and I'm just trying to see whether frailty increase total 0. Just trying to think how many beds they have now in that district. Basically, we're trying to have 100 to 120 beds to 115 beds available per population of 1,000, per population of folks over 75. Okay, what you'll find in the facilities in Pictou County, you're going to find a lot of people from Antigonish, Guysborough, and even as far as Port Hawkesbury, and you're going to find a lot of people from Truro, Colchester, and those areas. Okay, so what's happened, because there was no beds in those other areas, and there was a decent amount of number of beds in the Pictou area, that we had a migration of people there. What we do know is that once we construct those beds in those other areas, people will end up going back home, which is what we want them to do. We want people to be as close to home as possible, and then we can start reviewing what I know the NDP has brought forward as a very important issue, which is the 100-kilometer rule. So ultimately, even though we did not announce any new beds for Pictou County, there will be a dramatic change for the residents of Pictou County who will be able to access those homes in their areas. And I know there's been a lot of work done, and I stand by the numbers that have been presented, and I look forward to getting those beds put across the province and seeing the change that it will do for the residents of all areas, including Pictou County.
The Honourable Member for Pictou East.
Chair, to the Minister, I would think, and I certainly know some of the 19 to 20 there at any given time, and I would think that most of those would in fact be from Pictou County, and we are dealing with a situation where we're looking at sending someone from Pictou County to the Annapolis Valley, and I still didn't get the question asked or answered in relationship to the replacement of the Shiretown, and I'm not saying anything against that replacement. I'm just wondering why we are dealing with a replacement facility when we could in fact use a new facility somewhere in Pictou County. And I feel very strongly about that and just wanted to make a statement in relationship to it. Now, the other point about not getting any new units is we can tie in outmigration with that as well. And there are a lot of people being left in Pictou County that are in that baby boom generation. And there are going to be people that are on the early end of that baby boom generation, like this honorable member, who will be needing some kind of a facility probably down the road. And and I'm sort of on the leading edge of those baby boomers, and there are going to be many, many more behind me. So I think the minister at some point better look for some new beds for Pictou County. Now the member for Pictou West has in fact talked about waiting times, and I believe that from a local perspective there would be many, many more questions here today, and I would have asked for much more time had the Aberdeen Hospital not been doing such a good job. But I have a situation in my riding where a fish harvester in Lismore is no longer able to work on his boat. He has a very rare disease in the arm, and he is not talking months in relationship to getting treatment. He is talking years. We're looking at a couple of years, perhaps, a year and a half, 2 years, and this person has already been affected by not being able to work on the boat that his father owns. And we in this province are trying to look at intergenerational transfers of licenses. And here is a license that was going to be transferred from the father to the son, and we are in a situation where that cannot take place because the son is not able to work on the boat. So that is my example of someone that needs to be looked after within the next few months, not a year and a half or 2 years. And this degeneration continues to take place, and it can be halted. And it's a serious degeneration that is taking place in the one arm. So I know you've already responded to the wait time. I only asked for a few minutes to raise some local issues, and I appreciate the fact that we can raise one-on-one with this minister. So thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just quickly, going back to DHA 6 and the placement of beds right now, there are 507 beds available in Pictou County or within that district area. And again, the first set of beds is about putting the beds where the most need is. But because we're putting them in the places of most need, we know that there are individuals staying in homes where they don't want to be or are a little too far from home, that they'll move back to those new facilities, so making beds available in areas. And we know Pictou County will become available to people in that area. The issue around this fish harvester in Lismore, I'd like to have a little more detail maybe on that one, because if it is a WCB case, it might be because if he's working on a boat, but I'm not too sure, so we'd have to provide some more information on that. That, of course, people injured on the job and are in receipt of WCB are exempt from the Canada Health Act insofar as they can jump the queue. And there has been some blitzing and some more work being done, I think, in Kentville right now for orthopedics. But there's also a project being planned and being looked at for Pictou County through the Aberdeen. So they might want to provide some more information to me on that one, and we can see what more we can do on that one. So I thank the member opposite for his questions.
Okay, take a second.
Short recess, Minister. Are you requesting just... Very good, Mr. Steele. We'll take just a couple of minutes and we'll come right back for Canadian Affairs. the chair would recognize the honorable member for Halifax Fairview, and we'll be debating Canadian affairs, I believe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Minister has just finished a number of hours of debate on the health estimates. One of his other responsibilities, of course, is Acadian Affairs, for which I'm the critic. I had advised the Minister in advance that it was my intention, and we agreed between ourselves, that this particular conversation would take place in French. And Mr. Chairman, I think you've been notified of that as well. Alors, Monsieur le Président, c'est pour moi un grand plaisir d'être ici en tant que porte-parole pour l'NPD en matière d'affaires acadiennes. Après que mon collègue Kevin Deveau a démissionné, je suis maintenant la porte-parole. Alors, je veux poser quelques questions au ministre au sujet de son budget. Et pour tout ce que nous savons, c'est peut-être la première fois que le débat sur le budget a déroulé en français. Ce n'est pas possible d'être certain, mais c'est une bonne chose en discutant ce budget. Dans le discours du budget, le vendredi passé, j'étais bien intéressé à entendre le ministre des Finances disant le suivant. En partenariat avec le gouvernement fédéral, ce budget inclut 688 000 $ pour épanouir le progrès considérable qui a été fait en la provision des services en français durant l'année passée. Quand j'ai entendu ça, j'ai cru que c'est un montant d'argent de plus, en plus de ce qui a été dépensé l'année passée. Mais ce que j'ai découvert en étudiant le budget, c'est que ce n'est pas quelque chose de nouveau du tout. En effet, il y a eu de budget à budget un coupure de presque 10% dans le budget de l'Office des affaires acadiennes. Et avec les dépenses actuelles à ce budget, c'est à peu près la même chose. Est-ce que le ministre peut confirmer qu'il y a dans le budget de l'Office cette année une légère baisse dans le budget?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canadian Affairs.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Le membre de Halifax Fairview, j'aimerais te remercier pour ces questions et pour m'accorder l'opportunité de faire un peu de débat en français. Quand ça vient au budget opérationnel de l'Office des affaires acadiennes, c'est essentiellement le même que l'année dernière. Ce qu'on voit vraiment, c'est un changement de presque 30 000 pièces qui sont additionnelles pour l'accueil d'une conférence, de conférence nationale sur la francophonie canadienne qu'on vise d'avoir quelque temps, je pense, dans septembre ou quelque chose. Ce qu'on voit dans la baisse d'argent, c'est vraiment la classification des salaires. À ce moment ici, on a 5 personnes qui travaillent au bureau, dans l'Office des affaires acadiennes. Donc, c'était vraiment un ajustement de ces personnages-là. L'autre chose qu'on voit du budget des affaires acadiennes, c'est vraiment, ce qu'on ne voit pas, c'est l'argent fédéral qui vient du ministère du patrimoine canadien et puis qui est matché ou jumelé avec des argents de différents ministères qui sont dans chaque, des différents ministères du gouvernement qui offrent des services aux Acadiens ou aux francophones de la Nouvelle-Écosse.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Fairview.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors, la chose la plus importante n'est pas exactement le montant d'argent, c'est ce qu'on va faire avec cet argent. Alors, j'ai étudié le plan d'affaires pour l'Office des affaires acadiennes qui identifie 14 priorités pour l'année 2007-2008. Mais ce qui est surprenant dans ce plan d'affaires, c'est dans la colonne qui est pour les cibles, les résultats ciblés. Résultats ciblés, ce qu'on va faire avec l'argent. Pour les 14 priorités, il y a 11 dont cette colonne est vide, tout à fait vide. Et comment est-ce que cette Assemblée peut savoir ce que l'Office va faire avec ces montants d'argent s'il n'y a pas même dans le plan d'affaires des résultats ciblés?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canadian Affairs.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Al membre de Halifax Fairview, c'est vraiment pas nécessairement qu'est-ce qui est important, c'est le plan d'affaires des affaires acadiennes, mais c'est les plans d'affaires de chaque ministère qui vont maintenant avoir des choses pour offrir des services à la population acadienne. Donc de savoir que la population acadienne dans nos régions, même ici à Halifax, ont besoin de services. Ce qu'on voit vraiment, c'est l'Office des affaires acadiennes en ce moment. C'est l'organisme central de soutien pour l'ensemble du gouvernement. Donc, le travail que nous faisons dépend vraiment sur les demandes reçues des ministères. Ceci est seulement le deuxième plan d'affaires pour l'Office, donc si ça semble qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup de choses dedans ou peut-être des choses qui ne sont pas avec vraiment des résultats ciblés, c'est à cause que vraiment c'est la deuxième année, on vise vraiment à travailler encore avec les autres ministères quand ça vient des services. Beaucoup de nos mesures de rendement sont nouvelles. Donc, on n'a pas de base pour trouver les résultats. Nous allons bâtir nos bases de données et renforcer notre capacité de rapporter sur nos priorités. Et à moi et à Mme Madden, qui est la directrice, nous serons efficaces. On pense qu'on va être efficace quand il y aura une augmentation des nombres de services gouvernementaux. À moi, c'est ça qui est plus important. Des gouvernementaux en français et quand ces services répondront aux besoins de la communauté. Donc, les choses qu'on veut faire, qu'on va faire, c'est travailler en collaboration avec le comité de coordination des services en français pour mettre en œuvre des stratégies globales pour l'amélioration et l'augmentation des services en français, fournir des conseils sur les politiques et les communications, offrir des services de traduction, ce qu'on fait maintenant, et appuyer financièrement les ministères et les autres institutions publiques afin de les permettre d'élaborer leurs politiques ou créer des programmes qui augmenteront les services disponibles en français. Nous allons offrir des possibilités de formation ou d'amélioration des compétences linguistiques en français, continuer le dialogue avec la communauté acadienne et francophone, c'est quelque chose qu'on va faire souvent. Et un autre, maximiser l'utilisation des ressources disponibles, les fonds de l'entente, des partenariats nationaux et même des partenariats internationaux.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Fairview.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. En plus d'avoir des priorités sans résultats ciblés, j'ai aussi un problème avec le fait que beaucoup de ces priorités sont si vagues. Ce n'est pas un problème seulement avec l'Office des affaires acadiennes, c'est un problème qu'on trouve dans les plans d'affaires à travers le gouvernement. Mais je veux en citer quelques exemples. Par exemple, la priorité numéro 3, les ministères reçoivent du soutien pour les aider à communiquer leurs services en français. Comment est-ce qu'on peut mesurer ce soutien? Combien de soutien? Le plan d'affaires n'en dit rien. La priorité numéro 5, les ministères obtiennent des fonds en provenance de l'entente Canada-Nouvelle-Écosse relative aux services en français, mais combien d'argent le plan d'affaires ne dit pas. Si on gagne un seul dollar du gouvernement fédéral, on peut dire que c'est une priorité réussie. Ce n'est pas assez pour nous ici dans l'Assemblée de savoir ce que fait l'Office des affaires acadiennes. Un autre exemple, numéro 8, la priorité numéro 8, la communauté acadienne et francophone est mieux connue dans la communauté francophone internationale. Par qui, comment, combien, il n'y a rien dans le plan d'affaires. Alors, j'ai de la difficulté en savant si le montant d'argent requis par l'Office est assez ou pas assez parce que ces priorités sont tellement vagues. Est-ce que le ministre peut nous promettre que dans les plans d'affaires dans l'avenir, on va avoir pour chaque priorité quelque chose, plus exact et avec pour chacune de ces priorités des résultats ciblés parce qu'il y a une expression, si on ne sait pas où on va, on ne peut pas jamais y parvenir. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner cette promesse?
The honourable member responsible for Canadian Affairs.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Et simplement dit que, comme j'ai répondu justement, que vraiment c'est notre deuxième plan d'affaires. C'est quelque chose qu'on a vraiment on a pensé, mais c'était aussi de regarder ce qu'on fait dans le sein du gouvernement, essayer d'être des conseils, d'être le système central pour offrir des soins, mais aussi pour faire certain qu'il y en ait des argents pour cibler avec des argents de chaque ministère. L'autre chose que même si ce n'est pas dans le plan d'affaires que le membre parle de, on va déposer un rapport sur les services en français ici en Chambre avant qu'on ait fini nos débats. Donc, on pense de l'avoir fini dans une couple de semaines, donc je pense dans 2 semaines. Donc, je vais offrir l'opportunité du membre, du député, de regarder ce qu'on fait, ce qu'on a fait, et puis je vais faire une petite liste ici des choses que moi je trouve que c'est des choses importantes qu'on a pu faire pendant le dernier an. C'est vraiment les institutions publiques désignées auront publié leur plan de service en français et auront exécuté ces plans, ce qu'on va voir. Une augmentation des nombres de documents, communiqués de presse, informations sur les sites web et des affichages en français. Le programme Bonjour, c'est quelque chose que moi je suis vraiment excité de voir, d'avoir plus d'affichage, plus d'épinglettes pour nos travailleurs qui sont bilingues. Sera plus visible afin d'identifier les bureaux et les personnels offrant ces services en français. Et les consultations publiques qui offront aux Acadiens, aux francophones l'occasion de participer en français. Donc, ce qu'on pousse maintenant, c'est vraiment quand on va de district en district, même avec la consultation en justice. Quand on va à Yarmouth, quand on va à d'autres endroits qu'on pense qu'on a une population acadienne, on va avoir des traductions, des choses comme ça qui vont être publiées et puis on peut avoir. Donc, même si notre business plan cette année n'a pas toutes les informations qu'on aimerait avoir, c'est seulement qu'on n'a pas de base pour vraiment cibler avec. Donc, ce qu'on va voir prochainement dans les prochains business plans, dans les prochains projets, que plus d'informations vont être disponibles pour tous les Néo-Écossais et puis pour nos membres.
The honourable member for Halifax Fairview.
Merci et au ministre, ma dernière question. La chose la plus importante n'est pas ce que l'Office va faire pour moi ou pour les députés dans cette Assemblée, mais ce que l'Office peut faire pour aider les Acadiens et Acadiennes. Alors, je n'ai pas trouvé la réponse dans le plan d'affaires de l'Office, alors je vais poser la question au ministre. Pour les Acadiens et Acadiennes, dans l'année à venir, quels sont les changements concrets dans la vie quotidienne qu'ils vont remarquer dans leur vie à cause des actions de l'Office?
The honourable minister for
Merci.
Canadian Affairs.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Une autre fois, ça me donne la chance de discuter des choses qu'on va voir. Et vraiment, j'aimerais remercier même tous les membres ici pour le support pendant le projet de loi sur les services en français, pour leur support pendant la réglementation qui est maintenant en vigueur depuis la fin de l'année de 2006. On va voir les institutions publiques désignées. Ils vont publier leur plan d'affaires de services en français et ils auront exécuté. Les choses qu'on va voir dans nos régions, c'est notre c'est notre programme Bonjour. On va voir plus de personnes dans les centres de services Nouvelle-Écosse, les centres, même dans les régies de santé, dans les hôpitaux. On va voir du monde avec Bonjour. Les paramédics vont avoir Bonjour sur eux qui peuvent offrir des services en français. On va voir plus de consultations avec la communauté. On envisage un partenariat avec la Fédération acadienne de vraiment travailler avec la communauté parce qu'on a besoin de faire deux choses. Ce n'est pas seulement d'avoir des services disponibles, mais on a besoin de vendre l'idée à les Acadiens dans les régions d'utiliser les services qui sont là. Et c'est avec cette utilisation-là qu'on peut prendre les normes, on peut parler avec les autres ministères pour en offrir d'autres. Donc, ça, c'est le travail qu'on veut faire pour les Acadiens. C'est des choses qu'on va voir pour les Acadiens. Et puis, je pense qu'on a fait des grands pas pendant les derniers 2 ans, 3 ans. Et c'est des pas qu'on va tient de prendre pour les services en français pour nos Acadiens dans la Nouvelle-Écosse.
The honourable member for Halifax Fairview with a closing statement.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Cela complète mes questions pour le ministre. Et, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my questions for the Minister of Acadian Affairs.
Thank you. I would now invite the Minister of Health to close debate on Resolution E11.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Et encore, j'aimerais remercier le membre de Halifax Fairview pour m'accorder l'opportunité de faire un peu de débat dans ma langue maternelle en français. C'est quelque chose que j'aime beaucoup et je n'ai pas l'opportunité de faire. Thank you again, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity, and to the member for Halifax Fairview for allowing me the opportunity to do a bit of debate in French, because it's something that we don't get enough to do enough, and I think in my maternal language it's actually a lot of fun to do. Therefore, being there's no more questions of the two departments or two offices in my purview, the resolution of E11 resolved that a sum not exceeding $2,959,112,000 be granted to the Lieutenant Governor to defray expenses in respect of the Department of Health pursuant to the estimate. And do we do one resolution at a time? Because I got a second resolution for Canadian Affairs.
We'll do one at a time. Shall the resolution stand? All those in favor? Pass? Stand. The resolution stand. Go ahead, Minister. Agreed?
Agreed. Okay.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second resolution is E17. Resolved that a sum not exceeding, all right, well, we'll do this one. $28,012,000 be granted to the Lieutenant Governor to defray the expenses in respect to the Executive Council pursuant to the estimate where Acadian Affairs represents $688,000.
Shall the resolution stand? All those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Minister. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow the Minister of Community Services to prepare and gather her staff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. E2, resolved that a sum not exceeding $781,783,000 be granted to the Lieutenant Governor to defray expenses in respect of the Department of Community Services pursuant to the estimate and the business plan of the Nova Scotia Housing Development Corporation be approved. Mr. Chair, it's indeed an honour to appear before this committee and present the Department of Community Services budget for the 2007-2008 fiscal year. I am pleased to have with me today two senior staff people who work with the numbers day in and day out, and for these estimate days, I will be counting on their support. George Hudson is the Executive Director of Finance and Administration, and Bonnie LaFranc is Manager of Budgets and Results. Without the two of them, I indeed would be very lonely today and in the days to come. This estimates debate gives me a chance to profile the Department of Community Services and to provide a preview of our programs and services for the upcoming fiscal year. The most important piece of news, Mr. Chair, is that our overall departmental budget is increasing, allowing us to direct more money to where it is most needed. The Community Services budget for 2007-2008 is $781,783,000. That's an increase of $33.7 million over last year. That's millions more in support of thousands of Nova Scotians in need. Mr. Chair, in light of the fiscal demands on this government and the competing desires of every department to do more, I am grateful that Community Services clients are being looked after. In fact, we will be widening our reach within some programs to touch more people with this additional funding. I will give you an outline of where this funding will be directed. There are four key program areas within the Department of Community Services: employment support and income assistance, family and children's services, services for persons with disabilities, and housing. Mr. Chair, the employment support and income assistance section takes up a huge amount of our department's budget, almost half, in fact. I am pleased to report that for the fourth consecutive year, income assistance rates will increase. Effective October the 1st, 2007, all income assistance recipients will receive a monthly personal allowance increase, which will be based on the Consumer Price Index. We will be investing $1.6 million annually on behalf of some 32,500 clients. And while we are increasing benefits for our clients, our overall caseload is declining. Accordingly, the overall budget for income assistance is declining. I am pleased to report that there are about 2,000 fewer people on income assistance than last year. Staff with our Employment Support Services program are helping clients determine their plan for future employment. Staff are helping them prepare resumes, get the training or experience they need to return to the workforce. This allows us to provide more funding to the people who depend upon us for income support. Mr. Chair, last fall, we launched the Low-Income Pharmacare Program for Children. This year, we are dedicating $2 million to ensure that children of parents receiving the Nova Scotia Child Tax Benefit are eligible to receive the medications they need to stay healthy. As well, government is increasing funding under the Income Assistance Pharmacare Program. We are adding $3 million to the Pharmacare budget to ensure that those individuals and families most in need continue to have access to prescription drug coverage. As everyone knows, Mr. Chair, this government is committed to implementing all 34 of the recommendations contained in Justice Merlin Nunn's report. Community Services will be investing $3 million to develop and implement a strategy aimed at helping Nova Scotian youth and their families. We will create a new Family and Youth Services Division. Together with our fellow departments of Justice, Health, Education, Health Promotion and Protection, we will work to improve the delivery of services for children and youth in our province. We are committed to collaboration on government-wide policies which may translate into legislation to protect children and programs for their benefit. Now, Mr. Chair, it is not an overstatement to say that I am thrilled with the injection of about $7 million in new federal funding to support the creation of more sustainable childcare spaces throughout Nova Scotia. This is an ongoing commitment which will increase in the future at 3% per year. Now, we welcome this funding from our federal partners, which will complement our Made in Nova Scotia 10-year early learning and childcare plan and help families access quality care for their children. Our original plan included an investment of more than $130 million, which will result in approximately 1,000 new, full-day, licensed childcare spaces. We're pleased to continue our partnership with the federal government to extend our agreements on early childhood education, with another $7 million for this year alone, and the continuation of those agreements to 2014. Much more can be done for parents of preschool-age children looking for choice in daycare services. Funding for children with special needs will double and help approximately 530 more Nova Scotian children. We recently announced the Child Care Operating Grant funding. This funding is available to all licensed full-day child care centers and streamlines our existing grant system. We have also provided over $600,000 in repair and renovation funds to 30 child care centers across the province to make improvements to their facilities, like replacing windows, installing accessibility ramps, and adding energy-efficient furnaces. Mr. Chair, my department looks forward to working with the child care sector to identify opportunities and spaces this year so that parents can find affordable and safe child care. Now, Mr. Chair, it is most rewarding to see the positive impact some of our programs are having on the lives of those Nova Scotians who are coping with mental or physical challenges. Through our Services for Persons with Disabilities Renewal Project, the department continues to make progressive strides in providing a more responsive, accessible, and sustainable system of supports for Nova Scotians with disabilities. Independence is what they seek, and our support is what they need. We've rolled out 3 new and expanded programs: direct family support, alternate family support, and independent living support. These are important steps that will provide a broader range of options to support people with disabilities by enabling them to stay in their own homes or find additional support within their community. Cape Breton served as a pilot region for the Independent Living Support Program last year. Just last week, the program was rolled out in the northern region, and the other 2 regions will be added this year. We are investing an additional $2.2 million in these 3 community-based programs to make services available to even more people. In the 2007-2008 budget, the Finance Minister announced that our government would be embarking on a new pilot program aimed at helping Nova Scotia seniors stay at home with help from family members or care providers. The government recognizes that many seniors need a helping hand to remain in their own homes instead of moving to a seniors facility away from their community. An investment of $800,000 will be available to fund those costs that might otherwise mean the difference between staying in a family home or moving to a care facility. Now, Mr. Chair, this government's total investment in housing repair programs in 2007-2008 will reach $18.2 million, an increase of $4 million. These programs will enable seniors and low to modest income households make necessary repairs to their homes, enabling them to remain in their own homes. Mr. Chair, in 2007-2008, we will be investing a total of $18.9 million in affordable housing as part of our plan to increase and preserve the supply of affordable housing across Nova Scotia. With funds available from Phase 2 of the Affordable Housing Agreement, A total of $11.5 million will be invested in the creation of new affordable housing options and the preservation of existing housing stock to ensure Nova Scotians have access to safe, adequate, and affordable housing. We look forward to continuing our partnership with the federal government and the private sector on these affordable housing initiatives. A total of $7.3 million from the Affordable and Off-Reserve Aboriginal Housing Trusts will also be invested. Working with representatives of our Aboriginal communities and the Provincial Office of Aboriginal Affairs, we will spend more than $1.5 million this year to help address the housing needs of our Aboriginal people. $3.25 million of this funding will be used to help improve accessibility and mobility within senior citizens' housing. Many seniors enter senior citizens' housing units when they turn 65, and mobility is not a major issue. Over the time, the average age of our clients has grown as they stay within units for longer periods. We are pleased to invest in senior citizens' housing throughout the province by installing 13 new elevators. Elevators increase the ability for clients to age in place, Mr. Chair, enabling them to stay in the units they consider home. We will continue to accommodate these mobility issues and challenges as soon as we can. The remaining $2.5 million will be used this year to create additional affordable housing options for low-income Nova Scotians. Our government is committed to maintaining a stable and skilled workforce. We have allocated wage increases of approximately $11 million to cover negotiated settlements for wages, salaries, and benefits for staff of the department and our service delivery partners. We are making significant investments in programs offered by community services, which will benefit the Nova Scotians who find themselves in need of our support. Mr. Chair, I look forward to sharing more details of our budget with members of the committee through their questions. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Minister, for those opening comments. We will now begin debate with the NDP caucus, and I will recognize the honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to take the opportunity to thank the Honourable Minister for her opening comments. The budget that is presented before us, congratulations on making it through your first year as the Minister of Community Services, and thank you for your staff for taking the time today to come and assist the Minister. I stand before you today with 10 years, or 10 months, I wish 10 years, 10 months under my belt as a critic, 10 months under my belt as Community Services critic. And I can tell you that it has indeed been an eye-opener when you, as an MLA, have individuals and constituents come into your office and share their situations with you, be it an easy problem to solve or a difficult problem to solve. And I think that all of us in here, has been stated many times, the majority of the situations and issues that we deal with are social issues. This is a huge part of the budget for this province, Community Services. And in recent months, I am encouraged to know that there has been several resolutions passed on the floor of Conservative conventions. I am encouraged by the third party, the Liberal Party, in pushing forward on a poverty strategy bill. I can tell you today, however, that we still have a long way to go. And in the hours and the days coming, we as a caucus hope to point out some of the inefficiencies or key concerns that we have to address. I want to personally thank the Department of Community Services that represents the Dartmouth area. I want to personally thank Supervisors Greg Cromwell, Ron Han, Jim Burgess for all their efforts in making my job easy. We have, at my office, great communication with the department. However, as stated, there is much more work, because as a community services critic for the official opposition, I have many calls from not just my constituency, but from around the province. And I have had success with the Dartmouth office. I have had success with the minister's office immediately here in Halifax, the previous deputy minister. However, throughout the province, there are issues that come to me that I would encourage all other MLAs to bring to the department as well. Whether political stripe they take up, it doesn't matter. It's an issue that they should bring right to the department. And we talked and spoke on silos, and I think that this government now realizes the importance of communication between community services, justice, education, and the Department of Health. I think it's crucial that we begin to look at situations and cases as individuals and how we can better each individual case instead of pushing it off. And I think that the minister and her department, as other ministers are doing recognize the fact that that is key and crucial if we're going to actually help the most vulnerable in our society. So with those opening comments, the line of questioning that I'm going to take in the next hour, they'll be talking around the ESIA programs. I want to speak to concerns that constituents have brought to me in and around communication with caseworkers and supervisors. I want to also speak to the importance of the child welfare and child protection situations, many that have been brought to my attention throughout the province. I'll speak to several issues in and around the daycare program, the Made in Nova Scotia 10-year plan. I'll comment on our housing stock or the lack of affordable housing. Programs such as Career Seek, the advisory committee that's struck up by the minister regarding child protection and child welfare, and key issues such as clawbacks, the 30-70 split. And what I'll start with, first of all, is the ESIA program. The minister stated that there will be an increase based on the Consumer Price Index in October. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I understand this will be the fourth year consecutively that we've had an increase. Last year it was $10, the year before it was $6. The Consumer Price Index is, between 1% and 3%. Are we looking at another $10 increase for personal allowance and possibly another $15 increase on shelter?
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and not to take up my honourable colleague's time, but I do want to recognize the hard work that the member for Dartmouth North has done over the past 10 months, though it may seem like 10 years for him. It indeed has only been 10 months. Mr. Chair, I, as well as my department staff and my political staffers, have welcomed the member to the department. We've welcomed discussion. It has always been thoughtful. It's always been sincere. And it's always been, even when it needed to be critical, it was done so in a manner that was, that was critical for positive results. So I want to stand in my place today and recognize that, thank him for his professionalism, for his dedication to his constituents, and for the respectful manner in which he interacts with my staff. It is noted and it is appreciated, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to make that perfectly clear. My honourable colleague made reference to a couple of other points that I will reference. I know he did have quite a long list of issues he wants to bring up, but I think one of the points that he made that's extremely important, Mr. Chair, is the necessity to seek all the input we can possibly gain. And I was writing notes as he was speaking. I'm reflecting upon the Senate report that's coming down that will discuss poverty in rural communities. Looking forward to receiving that. The face-to-face report that I received just this past week regarding issues across the province as they pertain to poverty and employment and income assistance. The standing committee who made reference, who presented documents to me, had a two-day follow-up on their poverty forum, and the constructive information that can come out of those reports, as well as the initiatives from all three political parties in this province. I think it's important that we do look beyond political agendas and political lines when we deal with issues that affect everyone and that do not have political agenda, but they have broad-based importance and ramifications for all of us. So I'll look forward to continuing those discussions and working with my honourable colleague throughout the months to come ahead, and perhaps years, as we deal with some of those documents and factor those in. Now, specifically to my honourable colleague's question, I stood in my place last year and was pleased to be able to bring for a third year in a row an increase to the personal allowance. Mr. Chair, as my honourable colleague has identified, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we will be pleased to do that again for the fourth year in a row. It will come into effect October 1st, as the last increase came into effect October 1st. So we will piggyback on that, Mr. Chair. We will use the CPI as committed, Mr. Chair, to provide that increase, as we know that there are many pressures on our clientele. So we will be providing that on an annual basis according to the Consumer Price Index, Mr. Chair.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Madam Minister. My next question, I want to go to the page 4.10 of the estimates. Supplementary details, the income assistance payments line that's been reduced from $226,564,900 down to $213,386,500. My next question would be, can you explain where or why that drop has taken place? And if you could provide some figures as to the overall reduction in the number of clients that this could possibly represent.
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And as my honourable colleague across the way knows, the Income Assistance Program provides financial support for those individuals who are in financial need for a variety of reasons. The line that he is referencing, income assistance payments, indeed does reflect a decline in the estimate to forecast. And Mr. Chair, it's with pleasure that we see a decline, because that means that there's been a reduction in caseload. A reduction in caseload is positive, because that means more people are coming off income assistance and transitioning into the workforce, Mr. Chair. And my honourable colleague asked for specifics. The caseload continues to decline from 30,387 identified clients, 50,000 total beneficiaries in January 2006, to 29,103 identified clients, and 46,802 total beneficiaries January 2007. I can provide those numbers after the fact if I went too fast in my numbers. Basically, it's a decrease of over 1,200 identified clients in the last calendar year.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you. So the nearly $14 million in reduction in that forecast has been stated, as I can almost guarantee you're well aware of, the allowances that we give to individuals on the ESIA, the personal allowance and the shelter, is never nearly enough with the cost of living today. If you break it down, 14 million, if it is indeed a reduction in caseload, why wouldn't you take that extra money that's there and possibly spread it out again and boost it up over and above the CPI? It would probably work out, based on the cases, to about $35 to $40 extra. Could be food, it could go towards a power bill, or it could go towards a phone. Was that a possibility that you considered?
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We're always faced with challenges when it comes to the end of the line dollars. When we see the decrease, the opportunity that presented to us was for the last 3 and now 4 years to increase the personal allowance, as well as having increased the shelter rates. So we have chosen to reinvest in those program areas with the increase, but certainly should we continue to see a decline, then we would be more than happy to look at reinvesting in other areas where it's most needed.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'll go a little simpler. And I think probably all MLAs have had this situation. I know, especially here in Metro, many of the cases that I get, and it's from seniors, on whether they're on fixed income or individuals on the ESIA or individuals that are receiving disability, with the allowed or the allotted shelter and personal allowance. And I'll give you an example. A recent call to my office. Individuals on disability, their maximum on the shelter allowance is $535 and the $200 personal allowance, maybe some special diet added in. The gentleman's informed that his rent is going up. His rent was under that level. However, now he's calling my office saying, Trevor, what do we do? My rent's going up to $575. These are individuals that need to be healthy. These are individuals that will, if they're unhealthy, fall into the health department, get on the wait lists, create havoc in the healthcare system. There are too many of these cases. Too many of these cases. So if you can give me some advice, what can I say to an individual like that knows that there's no means for employment, they are disabled, and their rent's going up, and in HRM in particular, with the some major players in the real estate industry, it's happening on a regular basis, whether you're a senior or someone on disability or ESIA. What do we tell individuals? Where do we go to make up the balance of that rent?
The honourable, the member of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and it never ceases to amaze me the true passion and compassion that I hear in my honourable colleague's voice, because I know that it is for the benefit of those individuals that he brings cases like this to the floor. Mr. Chair, it is a never-ending challenge, and as we move forward to attempt to provide resources, support programs for all those Nova Scotians who find themselves in need, we do end up, Mr. Chair, making decisions and having challenges in the same way that low-income working Nova Scotians would have those same challenges. I would encourage the member to continue to work with his constituent, to attempt to exhaust the services and resources that are available. We're always welcome. You are always, the member is always welcome, Mr. Chair, and we have varieties of programs and opportunities. Perhaps there's something we can find within those programs and opportunities that would alleviate some of the stress for this particular member.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the comments from the minister. The unfortunate part is that when a case like this is presented to my office, the first thing we do is one thing. I need a budget. Sit down with the individual, we create a budget. Something that I believe that when an individual first approaches the government or social assistance or ESI programs, that should be instilled in that individual by a caseworker, an actual budget. When you go through the budget, then we're put in a position to what programs can we tap into? What areas can we exhaust to find more funding? And usually, whether it's transportation or special diet, it's still, whether we tap into it or not, take special diet, for example, $68 the maximum. If we tap into that and we're allotted that extra funds for that individual's a disabled individual, they still need to eat healthy. So all we're doing is we're taking from the system to make up for that rent. The individual's still not going to be able to eat healthy, and we're kind of robbing the system instead of going in and making the necessary changes to where things are really at today. And I know it's a difficult decision. I know it's, as far as budgets and money, it's a difficult position to put the government into. However, I look at individuals who are asked to find shelter on 300 or possibly 315 or 310 in October. When an individual is reaching out at the last resort, coming to the Department of Community Services, where do we tell this individual who's at their lowest point, the last resort, to find a place to live based on that shelter allowance. The 200, and that includes heat, that includes power, which is rising as well. And the difficulty in this escalates because it comes into a health factor for this individual, whether it be physical, emotional, mental. When you don't have a nickel in your pocket, you're feeling that. And it's I understand that the department is the last resort, but what are we telling individuals who are, and how do we get them beyond this? What kind of poverty strategy would we be able to install or implement to get these people past this point if we don't give them the basic necessities? And in a recent AGM held by Capital Health in the fall, they came up with 6 key points to a healthy lifestyle. 2 of those key points were income and shelter. And if we don't adequately meet those demands by those individuals that are most vulnerable in our society, we're never going to eradicate poverty. If an individual doesn't have enough shelter allowance allotted to them, how can they get up the next day and go to work if they're not living in a safe community? And I looked at the business plan and some of the goals and strategic plans and points, and they're, you know, it's client focused. It's eradicating poverty and elevating somebody out of that. And I think the taxpayer and the burden that's put on the taxpayer by individuals on this system, they would benefit. They would applaud you for helping these people, give them enough up front that would take them beyond this point. But what happens, unfortunately, is caseworkers are out there telling people to go to food banks. What are we saying to individuals? And you can share some comments on that, but that is the point. If we do not allow, and we've met with several organizations, and in 10 months, and I'm sure you've had reports from organizations, these are key points. Maybe next year another organization will prop up and come up with the same sort of points, present them to your caucus, to our caucus. If we don't make changes in these 2 key factors, we will never begin to even eradicate poverty. And I'd like your comments on that.
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And my honourable colleague raises numerous good points in that questioning. And it takes me to the opening comment that nearly half of the department's budget goes to ESIA. And the challenge and the question always is it enough? When you have the pressures of government, you know, one can never have enough. That would be a perfect world. But the advances, the commitments, the programs, the resources that we're able to put in place, I feel are good programs. They're good use of the taxpayers' dollars. And the 4-year-in-a-row increase, the increase 2 years in a row with the shelter, again, is it enough? No. Is it the move in the right direction? Yes. Do we continue to move in that direction? Yes. But it's not only those 2 issues. I think the opportunity that we have through this poverty reduction strategy is extremely valuable, because it needs to deal with a cross-sector responsibility, business, community, government. I think, and cross the governments. I think it becomes a collective responsibility. I will look forward to including those reports that I indicated earlier. I will also look forward to going out and consulting with some of our advocates who are out there on the ground every day, who see the issues the same as each MLA in this room sees, who sees those issues to truly understand the real challenges, not the challenges on paper, the real challenges people have in their lives. I leaned in and asked, you know, the budget for special needs, for example, $20 million for special needs. That can cover a variety of components. We need to look at specifically what those special needs are. Should some of them be factored into an automatic allowance? Are they truly special, or are they matters of survival? And I think we need to look at those types of issues as we move forward with the poverty reduction strategy. As well, the housing challenges. You know, it's a never-ending challenge. $90 million will be invested in a 7-year period in this province for affordable housing, for upgrades to our social housing. Again, that's a phenomenal commitment. It's a huge amount of money. Can it ever be enough? We're going in the right direction. It's the preservation of units, it's the creation of new units, it's those rent supplements that are key. It's continuing to work with our cooperatives in the province. It's all of those issues that come together. And so we know we can't lump them into a category. We can't say it's a housing issue. It's an IA issue. We know that it has to be a collective. So as we move forward, it's been certainly my goal to bring those issues together and to not deal with them individually and segregate an issue and an issue, because they are individuals. They may be an individual issue, but they are individuals, and they are indeed the clients who need our collective approach the most.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for those words. Speaking of individuals, I'll move on. I want to touch on some of the strategic goals in the actual business plan, and one in particular, and I'm going to move on to a discussion into caseworkers and supervisors. One of the strategic goals mentioned in the business plan was to create an integrated, client-focused quality service delivery system. Now, I think that's a wonderful goal. It's something that I've been saying that should happen immediately when someone is at their last resort and have to approach the department for help, because it's a difficult decision. It's a difficult step. It's sometimes, most times, an embarrassing step to have to take. So when an individual approaches the department, that is indeed what they're looking for. Not a handout necessarily, but a hand up, some guidance, some support. So I was very pleased to see that as being a part of the strategic goals. In saying that, one of the concerns that's been brought to my attention on numerous occasions from individuals approaching the department for social assistance is the lack of communication in the upfront. Initially, when they go to the department, they're told to produce an income statement, a bank statement. We look at what kind of shelter they need, an existing residence, and we determine whether or not they qualify. But it's so important that that individual is explained and communicated to the amounts and the many programs that could be made available. Because again, the individual is at their lowest point, they're coming to the department for a hand up. What I'm hearing is that doesn't take place. There's a lack of communication, and I'm wondering if you can comment on that.
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. An extremely important point. And we often talk about, do we communicate too much? Do we communicate too little? Do people truly understand what's available? Never ceases to amaze me how we learn about new programs in departments every day. As minister, I learn about programs in other departments every day that I didn't even know existed. The $3 million investment in the ICM program, I believe is truly a very valuable investment. It does exactly as we indicated in strategic goal to create that integrated, client-focused, quality service delivery system. So that is a commitment and an investment to do just that. The other issue is, you will see on the lines, we have an increase in our communication budget. Additional staff, resources, we have a webmaster. Now I know it can't all be done online, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we substitute the written word or communications through our staff for online. But I was very impressed. I traveled around to a couple of trade shows that pertains to child care. I was at an event where we were talking about housing, and there was actual information there in a pamphlet form that the individual could take home, take with them, that had numbers, that had facts and figures, contacts. I don't think we can do enough of that. And I think truly getting the word out is a key component. I won't say it's as important as the program, but it is a key component to the success of your program and to the delivery of that program, because it is those individuals who find themselves at a place in their life where it may not always be easy for them to come looking for that help, to know the questions to ask. They have advocates, they have political advocates, they have family or friends advocates, but we have to make sure that the front line is wide open so that when they go and ask the question, the answer is given and the door is opened even wider, and they don't get discouraged.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think your points are very valid. And the reason I bring it up is exactly what you said. But I'd like to see it go beyond more than just receiving the pamphlet. I've stated in the past, and I've spoken to you as well, regarding what I believe is crucial in giving that individual further support, a follow-up, and not necessarily a 6-month follow-up or a yearly follow-up. I'm talking about an individual who's at a crucial point in their lives, and if we really want to eradicate or eliminate them and further remove them from the system and really get them beyond the point that they're at, it's more than taking that pamphlet. That's the beginning. That's putting that pamphlet in their hand and saying, I am here to support you. I am here, to guide you in some sort of way. So I'm glad to hear that, and I encourage the department to, maybe have, a change in policy or allow caseworkers to further be more active maybe with the individuals and that they come into contact with. I think it's a huge importance in the way that we deal with individuals rather than just giving them that monthly check. It's saying that we indeed, even though it's not our mandate, we care. And I think it's a benefit to the government as well because it lessens caseloads. Eventually that individual, if you work with them, if you coordinate things with them, they will see their way off the system. And I've been successful in that way and in working with your department in elevating people out of those situations by bringing a collective body together, those that make the decisions, that implement the policies, and present them in front of that individual. And that individual, they may be in awe, but they also see a support system that is there, that at the time of approaching the department for that assistance just isn't there. So I look forward to seeing that develop further. I want to touch on briefly, you had made mention of special needs, and many times, situations arise where, perhaps a power bill is out of whack and it needs to be eradicated and the department's called in or someone is moving, and, once every 2 years, you're allowed to have the department assist you in moving. However, a lot of times what it results in is an overpayment. And the situation is the client is thinking that it's being taken care of by the department, but the next month, it's off their check. The question I pose is, and upon your answer I'll respond, is the maximum for that overpayment is $45. When an overpayment is applied, why, and I understand why, but I want to hear it from the minister, why is it always applied initially at the maximum level of $45?
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To my honourable colleague's first comment before he moved on to the question, I think the key thing, and I just want to go back to communication for a moment, to be proactive is so important. The more we can do in a proactive, preventative manner, the better. Now, saying that, I know that I don't want to add to the pressure that's already on my caseworkers because they have got a phenomenal amount of pressure and responsibility on their shoulders. So I welcome the suggestion, and I know that as the department works with our caseworkers and our frontline workers, they are sensitive to the necessity to be proactive as well. So we will continue to encourage that in a professional development manner and seek opportunities to further be proactive. So I make mention of that. Mr. Chair, the issue of overpayments is a challenging one, there's no question. And it's an issue that I struggle with. I have as MLA as well as minister, had many challenging situations come before me where individuals have found themselves in these exact situations, where they have, for one reason or another, found themselves in need of extra assistance. It's been provided, and whether it's a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, and they felt that it was being looked after and then charged back as an overpayment, is something that I do struggle with. So I think it's key that any time that dollars or resources are being advanced, that it's clearly articulated, that it's clearly understood to the client that this is an advance. This is not an elimination of that challenge for you, of that issue, of that resource challenge. This is an advance. And I think that will go a long way to the struggles that the clients then have with when they're faced with how do I pay that back. I thought that was looked after. So I think that's the first thing we have to do. The $45 a month indeed is the maximum. To be quite honest with you and to be blunt, the reason for automatically going for the $45 per month, I don't have an answer for you for that.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your honesty. I can tell you what the process that I go through when this is presented to me. And again, usually if there's a situation, an individual walks into my office, the first thing I do with any matter is let's sit down and let's do a budget. I really want to give you the understanding as to where you're at. And I've had individuals that I've had to say, you can't afford to live here based on what you're allotted. And it's a difficult decision to tell someone to uproot their family and move. But I have no recourse based on the allotments that are given, through the department. The first thing I do when I see that, it's a red flag. And I know why, because, the department has to try to recoup that money as quick as possible. The first thing I do is call the supervisor and say, on an individual case, this person cannot afford, off a $200 personal allowance, whether it includes special diet or not, afford to lose $45 a month. And let's not even include special diet. Let's say it's $200 off the personal allowance. But it's slapped on there right away. The individual gets their check and they're short. Gee, how am I going to eat? I can't pay my phone bill, or I'm delaying my power bill. Well, that's a whole different can of worms, because the next month they're right back in my office and I'm making a call to Nova Scotia Power. And it's a pain in the butt for them as well. The first thing I do is I pick up the phone and I call the supervisor and say, this individual, here's their budget, they can't afford this. You know what happens? It's a reduction immediately. Low point of 10, usually $15. And that's appreciated. I look good in front of the client, and the supervisor looks like he's responding to the needs of the client. I guess my point is why doesn't that happen right away? Why, if they're helping the individual, if a caseworker is contacted and said that this is necessary, I need this extra funding, why can't that caseworker go back and communicate that to the supervisor and say, I know this is the process, but this individual can't afford to lose $45. Can we make it at this level? And I know it'll take longer to pay it back, but at least it's getting paid back, and it's not as big of an impact on an individual or a young family. I'm going to move on. I'm going to touch briefly, because I know we've communicated in the last week or so on this. I want to talk just briefly on one of the other strategic goals that impressed me. To create or to strengthen service provider relationships and leverage opportunities for collaboration. And I know I had brought to your attention a week or so ago a situation with a particular home for addictions. There's many across this province that seek funding through the department or through the Department of Health and Promotion. What continuously happens, and I'm bringing this up again because I want to get it on record, and I want to hear it from the minister. What continuously happens every year with these group homes or homes for addictions, recovery centers, is that the funding runs out. And one particular men's home for addictions, the Freedom Foundation in Dartmouth North, who's been operating for 17 years, has continuously, on a yearly basis, year in, year out, has found themselves in need of funding. And I know that they were receiving funding from the Gaming Foundation. However, this year it's ended. And when the situation was brought to my attention, I said to Joe Gibson, the coordinator, I said, Joe, you shouldn't have to go through this process every year. Why can't, based on the fact of what you're doing, what you're accomplishing with the individuals that come from all across this province to Dartmouth North in this men's home for addictions, the burden that you take off the justice system, the burden you take off the health department, the burden you take off community services, why can't we come up with a sustainable funding model? And I'd just like to hear or see what direction the department is going to officially go in there.
The Honourable, the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And to my honourable colleague's first point, I was nodding my head as you were talking about the calls to the supervisor to have it reduced. And you're absolutely correct. You look good in front of your constituents, and that works for you. I will go back and ask for a review of that policy to get a more clear understanding. I would concur that it is indeed an attempt to recoup the costs as quickly as possible to lessen the long-term burden on the client. Is it a catch-22, long-term burden versus immediate burden, and which one is more stressful? So I certainly will ask for clarification. I'm pleased to hear that the supervisors and the caseworkers do respond, and certainly it would be my hope and my intention that they would continue to respond in such a manner when members and concerned individuals contact them, and that they do take those budgeting. I think it's commendable that you do that. I would encourage all members, and I certainly would anticipate and hope and will encourage the caseworkers and the frontline workers to do that as well. Perhaps the burden wouldn't be quite as immediate in that case. So I will certainly have a look at that policy and discuss that with you at another date. And yes, we have discussed the recovery centres. We have a vast knowledge base and experience in this province, whether it is the women's centres, the men's treatment centres, the recovery centres. The work that goes on in those homes is just amazing. I've had the opportunity to visit a few across the province. I have been nothing but encouraged and amazed with what they do, with what they have. And I know that they rely on community, and I've encouraged some of them to go out and seek some corporate and some business connections that perhaps they're a little bit leery of doing. I think today, in the environment today, I really do believe, though, that business and corporate world is more, they're more encouraged or more apt to get involved and support centers for women and children, or treatment centers or recovery centers. I think that the feeling in the general public is one of much more acceptance than it would have been years ago. So I think corporate Nova Scotia and the business world would look more favorably upon helping out or assisting with those groups. Now, I was very pleased last year with the women's centers. We were able to take $55,000 that was provided from economic development on a yearly basis, but it wasn't considered core. We were able to transfer that, and we now offer that as core funding through the Department of Community Services for those women's centers to the tune of $155,000. The recovery centers, as their funding is peeled back from the Gambling Foundation, we certainly will be replacing that funding. It would be my intention to ask staff to look at that very type of core funding that provides the stability for the centres. We know those needs aren't going anywhere, so the core funding just makes it easier for the executive directors and the boards to say, okay, there's the core funding. Now, let's go out and let's try to tackle the corporate world. Let's go out and try and tackle how we handle our own budget. But if they know that core funding is there, I think it provides them with more stability. So we'll certainly be looking to do that in the days to come.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to hear that. They do indeed provided tremendous. I know the Freedom Foundation, Mr. Gibson often gets calls from judges, you know, and Joe will say to me, the judge called me and said, Joe, can you take this guy? And he's not even from Dartmouth North, he's from Sydney or Yarmouth. And they do a tremendous job. So, if we can eliminate the fact that they have to go back continuously, year in, year out, and basically beg for funding to provide a service that across departments is justified, so that's great. I'm going to move on to a tough one. And I really hate to end my time with this because it could possibly take some time. In 10 months, I cannot count on 2 hands and 2 feet how many cases have come to my attention about individuals, youth in particular, and we mentioned the Nunn report. Parents calling me saying, my daughter's on the street, she's out of control, I have no idea what to do, and the department won't help me. Numerous cases, and some which I've brought to your attention, to your EA's attention as well, and many more. I can tell you right now, Madam Minister, many more in the coming months that I would love the opportunity to sit down and bring to your attention. I want to say that parents are struggling, and along with that, individuals in our communities, in our society, youth are struggling. And I'm a particular individual that believes that there are not bad children. Bad things happen to children which cause them to act out. And I believe that there has to be a process in place, whether it's with your department or health or justice, there has to be that collective effort in ringing in and bringing in that individual that is struggling and allowing a parent to have access to programs that they can reach out for and not be punished for, not have child protection brought in and have a case immediately trumped up against them. And well, it's in the best interest of the child. It's a parent, a lot of times, many of the cases that I've dealt with, that has come to me and says, Trevor, I need help. And my child's worth saving, but I don't know what to do. It's an individual, it's a youth that I see at the age of 14, 15, 16, who may end up on the streets prostituting, experiencing drugs, end up someday on my doorstep as an MLA pregnant, saying, I need help, I need social assistance. There's a need and a necessity for programs. And if you can elaborate a little bit more, and this is just the first part of this because it's going to carry over. Like I said, it's very complex. I have many questions to ask in relation to child welfare. But if you can just tell me about some of the efforts that your department in particular would like to accomplish and would like to communicate with other departments in hopes that we can give parents the necessary tools and programs that can help bring and rein that child back in and give that child the sort of life that they deserve.
The Honourable Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and we could spend 8 hours, 80 hours, 80 days. There's no question that the challenges that come along with the child welfare and the family service division of this department are likely the ones that are the most gut-wrenching. All of our challenges push us to our limits, but those ones tend to be the most gut-wrenching. And I know, as my honourable colleague mentioned, he has brought issues to us. We've all struggled in trying to find the best possible avenue, path, for some of those individuals who find themselves, some of those families who find themselves with children and individuals who have seemed to have lost their way. My eyes were thrown wide open, Mr. Chair, my 15 years teaching. There are many challenges out there that we faced each and every day within our own communities, within our schools, and now as I find myself responding, as the government did to the Nunn Commission and the reports. And when you read that report, and I'm sure my honourable colleague did, and I read it from cover to cover, I was captivated by the report. I really was. I was captivated by the challenges. I was also captivated by that disconnect. That, to me, is the biggest challenge that we have, because we could have a multitude, and I firmly believe we do have a multitude of services and programs. When you go to the back of the response, and you see them individually by department, you think, wow, there shouldn't be a problem in the world, there shouldn't be a problem in the province when you look at all of these. But it's that integration, that knocking down of those silos that I think is key. Because yes, we will invest $3 million through our department with the recommendations. We will create a family and youth services section. We will put a youth strategy in place. We will hire directors in the regions, which is all extremely important. But at the end of the day, if we do not bring the programs and the services together and break down those silos, we will never truly conquer the challenges that come along that these families find themselves in. And they range from one end of the province to the, it's not an urban or a rural issue, it's straight across the board. It's not just a Dartmouth North issue, it's an issue all across the province. And that's why it's important that we have the collective of the departments and that we have one ministry that all the other departments are accountable to. So it isn't just that, well, it didn't happen in this department, it did happen over here, so that's why we have a lag. I think that that's key. The working group that's already up and operating on that strategy, the director is being sought. That individual will pool together the resources and the information that we have out there now to better put in place our go forward. I look forward to that information, but we're not stalling while we're doing that. We've got the Deputy Minister's Collective Committee that's working under the leadership of the Deputy Minister of Community Services. And again, that coming together of the departments is key. But the challenges are there. They're very real. And as we move forward and put some of the programs in place and collectively bring them together, unify them, I hope to have continual good news stories when it comes to some of these challenging cases.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I believe the minister is absolutely right in making the statement that it's not a Dartmouth North issue by no stretch of the imagination. And like I said, I as the community services critic, I'm not going to say a daily, a weekly, but I've had numerous cases from across this province of individuals and parents that have contacted my office and said, I don't know what to do. And you know, to the department's credit, we've been able to remedy several. There's one situation, and again, I think, as you state, bringing the programs together. And I know the minister's had a difficult year with particular cases where people have called on her to step out and represent individuals in certain cases. Individuals that are wards of the state or in care of the government. Difficult situations, but I can't help but think that these are individuals that need that not only need all those numerous programs, but they need, along with the services that they are provided with, the doctors, the psychiatrists, the effort to put them in group homes and emphasize how important education is. A lot of these individual youth need, again, that focus, concentration on getting them past and beyond where they're at. And again, I want to encourage the department. It's one thing for me to go to a psychiatrist and get an example and tell them my story, and then go to my doctor, give them the story, go to someone else. But if they're not collectively communicating and have my best interest at hand and coordinate a path which they want me to go on, it's all for nothing, because there are individuals, there are youths in our society today that are in situations where they don't have the necessary concentrated support. They are out there. They are the Archie Billards. And it's unfortunate, because even though there may have been programs available to Archie, there wasn't that collective group. There was a mother that couldn't control her child who was reaching out for help potentially, but I encourage the department, when they have a particular situation that they're faced with, to bring all parties, all interested parties together and present themselves to that individual that is in care or potentially could end up in care and say, we care about you. We want to get you beyond these points, and you have to be a part of that process. You have to be active. Because a lot of these individuals around 15 and 16 years of age think they are adults, and they are closely approaching adult age, soon be able to vote, soon some of them out of the care of the province at age 19 or potentially 21, but a lot of them don't have the skills. Some of them can't even. I met one individual recently that's been in care of the department since the age of 7.5, and they're 16 now. This individual can't fill out a job application. This individual continuously is in and out, breaching curfews, and they're reading at a grade 4 level, but they're in grade 9. And I just have to beg to question. 7.5 in the care of the government, 16. What have we done? And why is this individual at this point in their lives unable to cope? Because keep in mind, 2 or 3 years potentially out of the care. Where are they at? They're not off the system per se, because they're coming to my office saying, I need social assistance, I need this. But then they can't even fill out an apartment application. So I want to encourage the department to, when they are presented with the case, as I will approach your department in the coming months with several, because I believe every child has a chance. They have to play a role in that, but I believe also if we can collectively come together and allow that individual to have the support that they really need, the parent the support, I think we're on our way to eliminating future individuals that find themselves in poverty and just better instilling the pride and getting them on that path. And I think that's our role. I think we have a role in that. I'll touch on, I know we don't have much time, but I just want to, I'll prepare this for tomorrow. You can speak on it briefly. Child protection. There's a committee, an advisory committee that's stated in the Act to be set up on a yearly basis to monitor the system. Section 88, I believe it is. Yes, Section 88. Can you tell me where that committee is at now in reviewing some of the many cases that have come before the courts as far as child protection?
Order, please. If the member would indulge, I'm just going to permit the Minister of Economic Development for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to all members of the House. I'm very honored today to rise in my place and introduce 4 great citizens from my home community of Yarmouth. And one very special one of the group is my granddaughter, Megan Hurlbert, and her mother, Shelley, and her grandparents, Rick and Paulette Goodwin. I'd ask them to stand and receive the warm welcome of the House.
Welcome. The Honourable the Minister of Community Services.
Thank you very much.